What's going on, hikers? In today's video, we are in the Stringer studio and we are talking about some budget gear options that are great alternatives to some of the more expensive on the upper end of the spectrum of backpacking gear. Some not so much, but our goal is to save you some money because our mission on this channel is to help you increase your quality of life while you're out on trail. Now, before I share the first one with you, I do want to mention I enjoy using all the pieces of gear that I'm going to show today, even the expensive ones, because as you'll see, the deeper you get into backpacking, the more you are going to find kind of your niche of what you really like, and you'll be okay with spending a little bit more money on some things. On some things, I'm like, no, there's no way I'm going to spend that much money on that piece of gear. It's just not worth it. So let's go ahead and hop in into today's list. The first piece of gear on our list is an alternative to this thing. I won't go into depth on any particular piece of gear, but I'll give you a little play-by-play on each. So this is the Onyx Chair Zero, and it weighs about a pound. You got to sit somewhere when you're out on trail, but you don't always want to take this chair, nor do you really want to pay for the price tag sometimes, because this chair is over $100 whenever you could just sit on the ground. Or the cheap alternative, very inexpensive. This thing has had a lot of wear. This is a Thermarest Z seat. It's one of the more popular sit pads on trail. It's got a slight R value, so sometimes I take them both and I'll put it in my chair to keep my butt a little warmer, because there's a breeze that always blows under me. But this thing, for under 20 bucks, hard to beat as compared to over 100 on your backpacking chairs. And then some backpacks will even come with a sit pad, so you don't necessarily have to buy one of these. But if you are interested in any of the pieces of gear that I'm talking about today, I'm going to link them down in the description. You can find more information like prices, weights, all those types of things that I know that y'all really care about when it comes to your gear, and I do too. You just have to click the little arrow below the video to drop the description down and check out the links. Our second piece of gear is a pillow. Now, I sometimes feel like I collect pillows. This is a compressible pillow by Thermarest. This is a Nemo Philo pillow, which is like partially foam, partially inflatable. This is an Arrows pillow by Sea to Summit, which nice texture to it, also inflatable. Now, my budget gear alternative, since some of those can cost 40 or 50 bucks, is the Trekology 2.0 pillow from Amazon. This thing, great little pillow. I use it for between my legs when I'm sleeping on my side. But for less than 20 bucks, hard to beat. It has a double valve system, so the valve clicks and it has another click where you can kind of let out more air. Updated design from the Trekology 1.0. It has these little snaps. I feel like it's slightly bigger than the original too, but it has these little snaps so that if you want to snap it around your pad with the strap that comes with it, you can always do that if you're using it in a tent and gonna lay your head on it. Now, if you want to go completely like alternate, you don't want to spend any money, you can also take like a stuff sack and stick your clothes in it. Everybody's always like, I stick my dirty clothes in it, and I'm like, that's kind of gross, but that doesn't give your clothes a chance to air out. Another alternative is you can take your puffy jacket. Now, puffy jacket's like an insulated down jacket or synthetic jacket, and it's exactly what you think. You know, they're puffy. If you haven't seen one, it's the winter style jacket. You can tuck that whole puffy, if it has a hood, tuck it into the hood and use that as your pillow. Or if you don't have one of those, I guess just sleep on a boot. That's all I got left for you. The third piece of gear we're talking about today, a great budget option, and I actually like these in some ways more than the ones I normally use. These are the Cascade Mountain Tech carbon fiber cork handle trekking poles, and they have a snap lock on them, which I absolutely love. These things, for less than 50 bucks on Amazon, are a great alternative to some of the more expensive but really light trekking poles. Some I go to are the Gossamer Gear LT5s, and those things weigh like 4 ounces a piece. They weigh like basically nothing. I do like these cork handles better than the foam handles, and the LT5s, even though I love them, they are pretty expensive. You know, they're like a couple $100 for a pair of them, where these are like 25 bucks per trekking pole, so fairly cheap. And the snap locks instead of the twist locks, that's where it's at. I really like that too. So Make sure you check out the Cascade Mountain Tech trekking poles. I use them my entire through hike of the long trail, and they work absolutely great. While you're putting those trekking poles to work for you when you're out on trail, you have to know where you're going. And what I use all the time is Onyx Backcountry. It is an app that will basically let you plan out your trips, discover other trails. They are today's video sponsor, and I want to share with you a few of my favorite features that I utilize all the time on all these trips that I'm taking. So one of those features is when I'm planning out my trips, I can either one, use the Discover tab to look for things that have already been put on the thousands and thousands of miles of trail that Onyx already has. You can use the Discover tab to scroll through, look at photos of the different trails. You can look at the description of what the trail is like, what the terrain is like, look at the terrain profile. You can either look at like the color coding, like green is easy, orange is yellow, there you're getting into medium difficulty on your terrain, and then red is very difficult. Or if I know where I'm going and I want to plan out the route, I use their draw tool. And I'll go on my computer, I'll do it ahead of time, I'll map it all out, and then I'll go on my phone and I'll download that exact map, that whole course, the trail that I've mapped out, and I'll utilize their offline maps feature. So then I don't need data, I don't need Wi-Fi, I don't need anything because I have it downloaded ahead of time, and it doesn't matter where I'm at, I'm always going to be able to see that GPS data of that location that I downloaded, as well as all the trails through there, including the one that I made. Now, if you want to check them out, again, make sure you use code JS20 while you're doing that. And there's a ton of different features. I don't have enough time to tell you about all of them, but you should also check out the layers because you can see things in 3D, and it'll show you kind of a true picture of what those mountains and valleys look like. So thank you again, Onyx Backcountry, for sponsoring today's video and continuing to support the channel. Y'all go check them out and tell them Jeremiah sent you. Number 4 on our list. What I have here in front of me is a Pocket Rocket. It's a Pocket Rocket 2 technically, and a Pocket Rocket Deluxe. And these have been my two go-to stoves, but they'll put a dent in the pocketbook if you're not ready for them. So I have some alternatives for you. If you want to spend less than 20 bucks, you should check out their little brother. This thing is awesome at boiling water, not awesome at a whole lot of other things, but it will definitely get you through. It is the BRS stove, and it's like it's a Chinese knockoff stove that I used my whole through hike of the long trail, and it did exactly what I needed it to do. Now, if you don't want to spend any money, just find you a beer can on the side of the road and you can make your own alcohol stove out of it. And then this thing is pretty versatile. It'll burn anything that's flammable, really. So for backpacking, you know, if you're in a pinch and you had to, you could put Germ-X in there. Or if you had like an adult drink, maybe some vodka or something like that. Or paint thinner. Like you can just buy it, denatured alcohol at Walmart, and it'll burn that. And that's typically what I go with. So two great alternatives to spending however much you're willing to spend on your stove. The one downside I see with the alcohol stove is it takes a little longer, but the upside, completely silent. Some people absolutely love that. BRS, it's going to sound like a little jet engine, but it boils water pretty fast, and for the price, less than $20, it's hard to beat that. Our 5th piece of budget gear today is an alternative to something that you sometimes have to buy extra. And whenever you purchase a tent, what I'm talking about is the ground sheet. Now, some tents are going to come with the ground sheet, and you don't have to worry about buying it. But some tents, they're going to charge you an extra $50 to $100 just for something that should come with it. And I say no. No, tent companies, why are you doing this to me? Why can't you just give me the ground sheet? I get it, you're trying to make money. But I have an alternative. So if you don't want to spend the extra money on the ground sheet if it doesn't come with your tent, you can use a piece of Tyvek. Now, I've also used Polycro in the past. Right now I'm using Tyvek. This you can pretty much get for free if somebody's building a house somewhere around you. You know, just stop and say, hey, y'all are throwing away some Tyvek or house covering or whatever they're using. Can I have some of that? And since they're throwing it away, typically they'll give it to you. Or if you just don't want to go through the trouble, you can buy it at Lowe's. You can order pieces on Amazon. Just don't really want to get a whole row because that could get very expensive. But if you just have like a piece of Tyvek, you cut it slightly smaller than the underside of your tent. So the tub of your tent, measure it out and take off a few inches from every side. What you don't want to do is cut it the exact same size as your tent, the tent bottom, because then water can get in between the tent bottom and the Tyvek, and then you're gonna get wet in there. That defeats the whole purpose, right? So I also use this whenever I'm hammock camping, by the way. I'll take like a 2 foot by 3 foot square, or maybe a little bit bigger, and it's like the perfect spot to keep all my stuff from getting dry or getting wet and dirty. You know, it's like my little organizer spot. So Tyvek for the win when it comes to not spending money. The sixth piece of gear in today's list is an alternative to the platypus gravity fed system, or heck, for that matter, most of the gravity fed systems out there, because you're going to be spending usually over $100 in order to utilize that system. Now, the very first filter system that I ever fell in love with was actually the platypus filter set. But I have found that if you have one of these, a Sawyer squeeze, it can do the same thing that the platypus can do and more, because you can do your own gravity fed system with this. And I'll show you real quick. I won't go super in depth, but you fill up your water bladder, you screw your Sawyer on, and then you stick that water bladder inside of the little mesh bag that comes with your Sawyer squeeze. It's even got a little loop here so that you can hang it up on a tree or whatever. Well, once you got that, most of the Sawyer systems come with some couplings, and if they don't, you can check your local hardware store, or if you want to buy them from Sawyer, you can get them from there too. Just don't want to buy too much, because all this adds up, right? And then you could have just went with your own gravity fed system from another brand. So you screw on the coupling, and it's going to come with this gray hose. You hook the hose on there, and voila, you have a gravity fed system. Now, they even sell these little clips that you can snap your gravity fed system closed, so you don't have to keep a bottle screwed on to the other end, or are using it manually, but that kind of defeats the purpose of the gravity fed system. So Sawyer, you got it going on. Just make sure you keep including all the things that come with the Sawyer squeeze whenever I bought it. That way all these people don't have to go buy 6 couplings to make this stuff work. The seventh piece of gear on today's list is an alternative to either those expensive socks that you bought just to sleep in while you're out on trail, or if you're like me and want to go a little extra bougie, I take, and I'll continue to put them in videos, some down booties to keep my feetsies warm. You can always do what I have done and go to Walmart, go to the clothing section, and get you some wool socks. These are like a synthetic wool blend, and they cost way less at Walmart than those down booties that I bought. Now, I like the down booties, so if it's gonna be really cold, you better believe I'm gonna be wearing those. But especially in the shoulder seasons, I will go with a pair of just cheap wool socks that I bought at Walmart. Great alternative, save you some money, and no worries. I want you to comment below and tell me what are some other great alternative pieces of gear that I missed in this video. If you've enjoyed it, give me one of these, subscribe to the channel, and kick the notification bell for the latest notifications. I gotta figure out what to do with this studio. We'll see you in the next one.